Yo, what's good, Laker Nation? Listen, I need every single one of y'all to sit down right now, because what Austin Reaves just said after his post-practice workout tonight at the Paycom Center is something that has me genuinely shook, and I know we just lost. I know the score was ugly. I know it's 0-1 against the Thunder, and the media is already planning our funeral. But what happened in the last hour, what Reaves said to the cameras, the way he said it, the fury behind those normally calm Arkansas eyes. Bro, this is not the same Austin Reaves that walked off that court 3 hours ago after shooting 3 for 16. This is a completely different human being, and what he promised about Game 2 is either going to be the most iconic redemption moment of the 2026 playoffs or the most painful thing we've ever watched. There is no middle ground. So let me tell you exactly what happened, because Laker Nation, your boy Austin Reaves just declared war on the entire sports media machine, and he is not backing down. Hey, what's up everyone? Real quick before we get into everything, that like button is literally what determines if this reaches hundreds or thousands of fans. Takes 1 second, but makes a huge impact on the channel's growth. Just smash that like button right now. It's the easiest thing you can do, but honestly, the biggest way to support this content. Every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. Let me set the full scene because the context matters. Tonight, Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals, the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Lakers 108-90 at the Paycom Center. And Austin Reaves had one of the worst games of his professional career. 3 for 16 from the field. 3 for 16, 8 points total from a guy who averaged 23. 3 points per game during the regular season from a man who just 2 weeks ago stood in a tunnel in Houston and delivered the most passionate pregame interview of the entire first round. From a player who came back from an oblique injury and was supposed to be the Lakers' second scoring option with Luka Doncic still sidelined, and instead of being the engine, he was invisible, cold from the opening tip, hesitant in his shot selection, rattled by the Thunder's length and defensive switching. It was painful to watch, and the media, predictably, went straight for the jugular. Stephen A. Smith was the loudest because Stephen A. is always the loudest. He said on the postgame show that Austin Reaves is not a second or third option on a championship team. He said Reaves disappeared when the lights got bright in OKC. He said the Lakers' hopes of competing in this series without Luka were delusional because their supporting cast wasn't talented enough to hang with the best team in basketball, and multiple other analysts piled on, calling Reaves a regular season player, saying his 23 points per game were inflated by weak competition, and suggesting that the Thunder had exposed him as a fraud. It was a complete media assault on a man who had already experienced the worst shooting night of his postseason career. And Reaves heard it, all of it, because instead of going back to the hotel after the game, instead of resting for Game 2, Austin Reaves went back to the Paycom Center practice facility that the Lakers had reserved for after-hours work and started shooting. At midnight, alone in the gym with a ball machine and a Lakers assistant coach. And when the ESPN camera crew found out, when they showed up at the facility and asked if they could film, Reaves didn't just allow it, he requested the camera be positioned directly in front of him because he had something to say, and he wanted the whole world to hear it. The scene was cinematic. Reaves standing at the three-point line, drenched in sweat from an hour of shooting, the gym completely empty except for the assistant coach rebounding and the camera crew. The overhead lights were the only illumination, and Reaves, holding the basketball in both hands, looked directly at the camera and said, "Stephen A., I heard you, every word. You said I'm not a championship caliber option. You said I disappeared. You said the lights were too bright for me in OKC." He paused, spun the basketball in his hands. 3 for 16. You're right about the numbers. I know how to read a stat line. I don't need you to remind me. I went back to my hotel room after the game and stared at the ceiling for an hour, replaying every single shot I missed, every open three that rimmed out, every pull-up jumper that was short, every drive to the basket where I hesitated instead of attacking. I know exactly what went wrong tonight, and I don't need an analyst in a suit to explain my own game to me. Then his voice got harder. The softness of the self-assessment disappeared and was replaced by something metallic. But here's what you don't get to do, Stephen A. You don't get to take one game, and use it to define 3 years of work. You don't get to look at 3 for 16 and erase a 23-point regular season average. You don't get to watch one bad shooting night and declare that Austin Reaves isn't built for this. Because you weren't there at 5 in the morning when I was putting up shots before anyone else in the facility was awake. You weren't there during the Houston series when I came back from an oblique injury and helped close out the Rockets on the road. You weren't there in year 1 when I was undrafted and fighting for a roster spot and proving to the entire league that I belong. You show up when I fail. You disappear when I succeed. And that tells me everything I need to know about your analysis. He started shooting again while he talked, draining 3 after 3 with the rhythm of a man who was exercising demons. The Thunder are good. I'm not going to pretend they're not. Their defense tonight was the best defense I faced all season. Chet Holmgren changes everything at the rim. Their switching was precise. Their closeouts were fast. Lou Dort was in my jersey all night, and I didn't adjust quickly enough. I settled for contested shots instead of attacking the paint. I let their length intimidate me into being a jump shooter when I should have been a driver. And that's on me, not on JJ Redick's game plan, not on LeBron's passing. Me, I didn't execute. And in a game we lost by 18, my 3 for 16 is a significant part of the reason why. Then he stopped shooting, held the ball, and looked at the camera with an intensity that made me sit up straight in my chair. But this is what separates me from the players that Stephen A. thinks I am. The players who disappear after a bad game. The guys who lose confidence and never get it back. The guys who hear the criticism and shrink. I am not that player. I've never been that player because the worst nights of my career, the draft night when nobody called my name, the first year where I couldn't get consistent minutes, the game 5 against Houston where I went 4 for 15, those nights are the nights that made me who I am because every time I've hit bottom, I've come back stronger. Not the same, stronger, and 3 for 16 against the Thunder. This is just the next bottom, and what comes after bottom is the climb, and the climb starts right here, right now, in this empty gym at midnight in Oklahoma City. Then he made a specific, measurable promise that I think is incredibly brave and equally dangerous. He said, in game 2, I'm gonna be a different player. Not because I'm gonna try harder, because trying harder isn't the solution when you're already giving everything you have. I'm going to be different because I've already identified exactly what went wrong. In film review with JJ and the coaching staff, we found 3 specific adjustments that open up the OKC defense. 3. And those adjustments center on ME being more aggressive off the pick and roll, attacking Chet's help defense instead of settling for the jumper, and finding the short roll when Lou Dort goes over the screen. Those are schematic solutions, not motivational ones. And when you combine schematic solutions with the fury that I'm feeling right now, with the chip on my shoulder that Stephen A. just made 10 pounds heavier, the result is going to be very, very different from what happened tonight. He addressed the broader narrative about the Lakers without Luka, and this is where his competitive pride really showed. Everybody keeps saying we can't do this without Luka. We can't beat the Thunder. We can't compete in a 7-game series against the best team in basketball without our co-star. And I get it. Luka Doncic is one of the most talented players in NBA history. When he's not on the court, we're missing something significant. But you know what we're not missing? Heart, fight. Defensive toughness, coaching intelligence, the ability to adjust and adapt. LeBron James at 41 years old is still the smartest player on any court he steps on. Marcus Smart is a defensive weapon who can make any opposing guard uncomfortable. DeAndre Ayton is a physical force in the paint. And me? I averaged 23 points per game this season because I've earned the ability to score in this league. One bad game doesn't take that away. The Thunder didn't expose me. They beat me for one night. And there's a massive difference between those two things. He drained one final three-pointer, caught the ball on the bounce, and held it against his chest. To Laker Nation, I'm sorry about tonight. You deserve better than 3 for 16 from your guy. But I'm standing in this gym at midnight because I refuse to let that stat line be the story of this series. The story of this series is going to be about a team that got punched in the mouth in Game 1 and punched back in Game 2. And I'm going to be leading that counterpunch. Stephen A., you said I disappeared when the lights got bright. Fair enough. The lights were bright tonight, and I blinked. But I'm standing in those same lights right now, in this gym at midnight, shooting until my arms are numb. And when Game 2 comes, when those lights come back on, I'm not blinking. I'm staring directly into them, and directly into every camera that doubted me. Keep that same energy. because you're going to need something to talk about when I show up on Thursday. He turned and went back to shooting. The camera held on him for another 10 seconds. Just the sound of the ball hitting the floor, the swish of the net, the rhythm of a man putting in work when the world isn't watching. And that, Laker Nation, is why you should believe in Austin Reaves. Not because of what he says, because of what he does when nobody's supposed to be looking. The man is in an empty gym at midnight after the worst shooting night of his playoff career, and he's not hiding, he's not sleeping, he's working. That is the DNA of a champion, and one bad game doesn't change DNA. Then he addressed the paint defense directly. The Thunder scored in the paint way too easily last night. SGA was getting to the rim, J-Dub was finishing over me. Even the role players were comfortable attacking the basket, and that's not acceptable because the paint is my territory. That's my domain, and I let it get invaded, not because I was lazy, not because I was on vacation, because their speed and the way they space the floor with shooters creates driving lanes that are genuinely difficult to protect when you're also trying to contest Chet's three-pointer. But we've adjusted. JJ Redick and I spent 2 hours on film this morning specifically addressing the paint protection, and the answer involves me playing UP instead of drop in certain pick-and-roll coverages. That's a technical adjustment that changes the geometry of the play, and when you change the geometry, you change the results. Then he delivered the emotional punch that made me stand up from my couch. He said, I came to the Lakers for $8 million. $8 million! Because I wanted a chance to win a championship, not for money, not for fame, for the ring. And I am not going to let one game against the Thunder and a bunch of critics who have never played professional basketball take that dream away from me. I'm not going to let Stephen A. Smith, who has been calling me soft since my Phoenix days, narrate the story of my career. I write my story, with my play, with my effort, with the 12 rebounds I grabbed last night when apparently I was just occupying space. On 12 rebounds is occupying space? Then what do you call the centers who grab 6? What do you call the guys who get pushed around on the glass and don't compete? Those guys are occupying space. I'm competing. And the fact that competing and coming up slightly short in game 1 against the best team in basketball is enough for the media to label me as the problem tells you everything about how they view me. Not as a player, as a narrative. And I'm done being their narrative. Starting game 2, I'm writing my own. He finished with the line that's going to be everywhere by tomorrow. Stephen A., you and the New York media love selling the Lakers as a broken team. You love the drama. You love predicting our demise. Well, predict this. In game 2, I'm going to dominate the paint in a way that makes Chet Holmgren look like a rookie. Not because Chet isn't great. He is great. But because I'm about to play with an anger and a physicality that he has never encountered. Not in the regular season, not in the first round against whatever easy matchup he had. Never. And when I'm angry, when I'm physical, when I'm playing with something to prove, there is not a center on this planet who can handle me. Not Chet, not anyone. The series started yesterday. The real DeAndre Ayton starts Thursday, and the media is going to have to find somebody else to call soft, because I'm about to shut those mouths permanently. Game 2 is Thursday. Reaves just told the world he's coming back different. And if the Houston series taught us anything, it's that you should never bet against Austin Reaves when he's angry. I want to hear from y'all. Is Reaves going to bounce back? Drop it in the comments. Hit subscribe. More coming. Peace.